I am Annie Moyer from Sun and Moon Yoga Studio. Welcome to Be Like the River. We are like a river in so many ways, and it's much more than just the fact that we are mostly water in the body. It is the fact that we are fluid, not just in constitution, but in the way we exist and function in the world. We don't have any straight lines or right angles. We don't have rigid edges that are blocking out the rest of existence or keeping in what we believe is us inside. Those things don't exist. They exist in our perceptions, but they don't exist in reality. They're the old saying of you can never step into the same river twice is so true. Even if we think we're going to the same spot geographically and walking to the river's edge in the same place that we did before we take off our shoes and dip a foot in, what we're feeling in that river is never going to be exactly the same more than one time. We will have never been to that river in that form, in that existence before, and we never will again. And I believe that much of our suffering comes from an attempt to build up the edges of our metaphorical rivers of ourselves in ways that are rigid. And what we know to be true is that we are just one big storm away from our rivers spilling those banks that we built so carefully. And sometimes it takes a small storm to force us to spill our banks, and sometimes a big raging storm. Regardless of the size of the storm, stormy weather is always possible, and it will come. And the better thing for us to do in service of our own well-being and that of those around us is to soften our edges, to find ways to flow with a little more ease. The river bends and turns, and the rocks that are in the riverbed, their sharp edges get smoothed over as the water turns its currents over those rocks over and over and over again. So we can do the same with our lives. We can find ways to smooth over the rocks that are the obstacles in our lives, and we can find ways to recognize, acknowledge, and act in recognition of our coexistence with everything around us, with other people and circumstances that are beyond our control. The Mississippi River is an entity unto itself. It is mighty, it is long, it is gorgeous, it is powerful, but it doesn't just start and stop with firm edges. It begins as a trickle from a lake in Minnesota, and it ends into the majesty of the Gulf of Mexico and then follows into the ocean. And we are very much like that, where we initially have this perception of a firm beginning and a firm ending, and we are given a name and we live a life, but it comes from something and it will go into something else. And all the while that we're alive, we are giving and receiving, inhaling and exhaling, giving grace ideally and receiving grace, hopefully. So in a yoga practice, when we take the physical body onto the mat, we don't always have to be rigid. In fact, can we never be rigid and still be strong? Like a river that has banks that can absorb a big storm. And that's what we'll be examining today. So come to your mat in a standing position, standing nice and tall with your palms together at the heart. And just have some sense of rooting down, of ease and intention into the soles of your feet that's coming from the crown of your head. So that ease and intention of grounding energy that's starting as if you can imagine an inhale arriving from the top, like here's your lake in Minnesota, and flowing all the way down to the Mississippi, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico that's below your feet. Just imagine that. And then on your next inhale, bend the knees a little bit, soften the arms, scoop energy up as you reach and lift. And then lean back just a touch, just enough to feel an open space across the heart, but no strain in your lower back. And then on the next exhale, bend your knees, soften the arms, flow down, let the spine roll and cascade down like a waterfall. Let the head release and the neck soften, the jaw be at ease. And then bend your knees again. Roll the spine up so the torso comes halfway up. Put a little arch in the spine. Lift your chest. Climb your shoulder blades on top of your back. And then fall back down. And then inhale, roll and come all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. Reaching to the ceiling. And exhale, hands together at the heart. And then do that again. Bend the knees, soften the arms, reach up, lean back just enough to feel a flow happening in the upper torso. And then soften the arms, soften the knees, soften the spine, roll down. And then come halfway up. So we are flowing like the river. We have no hard edges. We do not have banks that are made of concrete. We have soft beginnings, soft endings. We are the space that is around us. One more time. Soft knees, rolling the arms up, leaning back with ease and space in the spine. Exhale, cascading back down. Following the easy course of your breath, like a soft breeze that's blowing down the river, reaching all the way back up, and then landing with hands together at the heart. And now take your feet wide, nice and wide on the mat, and turn your feet to one side, and bend your front knee so it stands right above its own ankle. And then take the arm that belongs to the back leg and drop it down, reaching down the back leg as you take the front arm and roll it up and reach to the ceiling, and then tip backwards a little bit, flowing into a reverse warrior, and then take that shape and turn it into a warrior two. And then on the next breath, turn that shape into a side angle pose. And reach the top arm out and over beyond the crown of the head. And then soften the arm, come back up into the warrior two again, soften the arms again, and then reach back into the reverse warrior. So we're not even necessarily prescribing in sharp ways the beginnings or the endings of a posture. We're just flowing in and out of it in the same way that you can't precisely determine the beginning edge or the ending edge of a single drop of water that is immersed in its journey down the river. And then one more time into the reverse. into the warrior, and into the side angle. And then come back up, straighten the leg, and shift to the other side. And then bend the knee and reach back. Soft arms, fluid breath, easy in the edges of the shapes. And that doesn't mean you can't reach or invigorate the intention around the shape or inside of the shape. It just means that we're not attached to some external form that doesn't really exist anyway. It would be as foolish as attaching ourselves to a single drop of water when there is an entire ocean full. Just a couple more times in each shape, landing there, but only for the moment. Letting the breath be the guide that helps carry the flow along its current. One more. Reaching into the side angle, standing strong and courageous in the warrior, opening the heart in the reverse warrior. And then release, straighten the front leg, turn the feet forward, pause for a moment, inhale, reach up, lean back, and then bend the knees a little bit and fold forward, floating down. And then come right back up. Open up the arms wide, pause, turn your feet again to the side, and this time we'll do a little flowing triangle. Reaching to the side over the front leg, tipping over, getting the arms nice and broadly reaching. And now take your top arm, soften it, float it down in front of your face, bend the front knee a little bit, and give yourself room to sway over to the other side as you shift your feet to the other side, and then take the new top arm, raise it up in front of your face like you're lifting a curtain. Turn and look as high as your neck allows you to, and then right away with the next breath, soften the arm, drape it down, shift your feet to the other side, take the new top arm, raise it up, and go side to side. So there's a softness in the knees, no locking of the knees, to allow for the flow to make its easy way through the joints. Just shifting side to side. And it doesn't have to be, nor will it ever be, the same way twice. Just like you can't step into the same river twice. You can never inhale the same breath, and the moment you exhale it, it's a new breath. Just a couple more times. Side to side. And maybe you feel like you perfected the foot shift and you enjoy recreating that, and that's fine. And just know that everything that evolves up and away from that perfected foot shift will be a different arrangement of cells, blood, oxygen molecules, everything that courses through us. All right, and then come back up, turn the feet forward so they're parallel to each other. Hands together at your heart. Bend the knees a little bit. Inhale. Reach up, lean back, look to the sky. Exhale, float down, and hang the head. And breathe. And now come up part way and simply walk around toward one foot and lift up the other heel, pivot on the toes, and then step back into downward facing dog. And make the dog pose roll and flow and shift and change. And now from here, lift one leg up high behind you, and you can center the other foot that stays down, lifting the one leg nice and high behind you, a three-legged dog. And then bend that lifted leg, pull the knee in towards you, and shoot the leg out from underneath you to the other side. Bring your attention to your back foot and pivot on the balls of the toes so you land on the inner edge of the foot and then on the hip of the front crossed under leg. And now into a fallen warrior as we turn the heart to the side or to the front of the mat, the short side of the mat, and fold down any amount. You can stay up on your elbows, or you can come all the way down onto the chest. You can roll a little bit more forward on the bottom hip to see if coming down lower is possible. And you can rest the head, turn to one side, to the center, or to the other side. Taking a breath here, knowing that the breath alone, each cycle is shifting what's happening in the shape. And now come back up, pressing into the hands. Walk the hands back so they're under your shoulders. And bend the back knee a little bit so you can lift the heel, get a grip of the toes on the mat, and then press into the back foot as well as your palms. Pull the underneath leg back and up. Downward facing dog again. Make it flowy, make it smooth, make it easy, make it interesting. Make it yours, just for this moment. And then walk your feet forward and slowly, easily roll up and pause at center. And then we'll do the other side. Inhale, reach up and exhale, fold down. And then step your feet back to downward facing dog. And so now we have a new leg that's going to lift to create the three-legged dog. So I'm going to center the one foot, lift the other foot, reach it up nice and high. And then bend the lifted leg, pull the knee in, shoot the leg out from underneath you to the other side, pivot on the balls of the toes of the back foot, so you're on the inner edge, land on the bottom leg's hip. Turn your heart toward the short side of the mat, walk your hands out, and come down any amount that makes sense for you. And breathe. If you're interested in getting the chest lower, you can roll more on the bottom hip forward to extend the torso and release. Or you can simply stay up on your elbows. I like to have my back leg straight here with the knee in line, but there's no reason not to bend the knee and rest the inside of the knee and leg on the ground here. And you may do it a different way every time. And so now bring the hands under the shoulders. Activate the back leg, lift the heel a little bit, get ready to press into the pads of the toes. And using your hands as extra leverage, pull the leg from underneath you, back up into three-legged dog, and then four paws on the ground. Flowing with a few breaths in dog pose, bending the knees, straightening the legs, shifting the hips from side to side. And now from here, come onto your hands and knees. And skate one shin forward so the knee lands between your hands. And straighten the back leg a little further back into a pigeon pose. Walk your hands back, Lift up your chest. Lift up your gaze. Lift up from the base of the belly. Make sure there's no strain in the lower back. Take a couple of breaths here. And now from here, come onto the hip of your bent knee. Just topple over sideways. And we're going to pivot so the back leg rolls out and the front knee lifts up. And we're turning now toward the back leg. We have a bent knee that's pointing to the ceiling. Hug that knee with the opposite arm for an easy twist. And now, from here, lean into the back hand. And you can do this with your back leg straight, leaning back, bending the back elbow, or you can keep this leg straight and lift the pelvis up away from the floor and reach back with your top arm. It's a little half back bend. And then come back down. Hug the bent knee. Face the straight leg. And now simply switch legs. So put the new leg in back and the new bent knee in front for pigeon on the second side. Fingertips or hands walking back, lift the heart, look up. Breathe this new breath in this new day that will never be repeated again. And now we're going to swivel around to face the back leg, which will be the straight leg in the twist. And the new front knee is bent. Hug it with its opposite arm. And then turn the chest to twist. Now lean back into the back hand. You can bend the elbow and take the arm that's wrapping the knee and simply reach it back behind you. Or you can keep this leg straight but lift it along with the pelvis as we lean back. And breathe. And then release. And if it feels different than it did on the first side, then you did it right. So the futility of trying to recreate things exactly the way they were before is worth noting. So now come to a simple, wide-kneed pose with the feet together. Bound angle pose. Lifting the heart high. Shoulders back toward the spine, broadening across the chest. Take a little bow forward and then roll the spine back. Inhale, lift up again, and exhale, bow forward and roll back. Do that a few more times. And then bring the knees together and turn onto your hands and knees and come to a child's pose. Dropping the forehead, soft arms, nice, easy, rounded spine. And from child's pose, you can roll it up and forward, rolling over the knees as you as you softly drop the thighs and the pelvis and the lower belly and the ribs down, and then lift up into an easy cobra pose, and right there, shifting back into child's pose. And do that just 2 or 3 more times. Recognizing it will never be the same way twice. And maybe tempering the desire to make it the same. And then one more time. And rest in child's pose. Nice deep inhales. So you feel the belly expanding out into maybe your lap or toward the floor. And soft, slow exhales. So you feel yourself fully alive and fully present in the course of expansion and contraction that is the very pulse of your life force. And then slowly come up. And a nice way to complete this practice would be to add a couple of props as you lie down. And you can do this at your leisure. I'll show you. I have a rolled up mat that I'm going to place that will support just behind my neck. And then a rolled up blanket or a bolster that I'll put under my knees as I lie back. There's always a little bit of repositioning to happen as you support yourself in a restorative shape. Another option here is to add a small roll under the upper back. I've heard this called a rippling brook pose. And it's just a soft way to support the natural eddies of the body as if it is floating down a river. Never the same way twice. Embracing all the twists and turns and eddies and spirals. And this is the way the blood courses through our veins. This is the way the breath enters and exits the lungs, and the way oxygen is carried in the blood cells to nourish the entire body. And just a couple more breaths. And as you're ready, whether it's now or in 2 more minutes or another hour, gently roll movement back into the body, recognizing no sharp angles, no sudden turns. Bend the knees and roll onto your side and bring yourself up. And come to an easy seat. And bring your palms together. Have a moment of gratitude for this day in its own weird and unique and special form, knowing that it will never come again. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.